So, what can we do in the battle against bacteria? Let's take a look at hands. They come into contact with bacteria and spread them around. But where do bacteria hang out in our everyday surroundings? And which species? And how many germs actually stick to our hands? Here's a test.
This is Louisa, our test subject. We'll follow her around for a morning. What kinds of bacteria are to be found on Louisa's hands to begin with? The samples are collected by direct contact with a Petri dish. Professor Rainer Mutters from the Institute for Medical Microbiology and Hygiene at the University of Marburg will be analysing the samples for us. So what did he find right after Louisa got up?
We found lots of germs that are typically found on the hand, like strains of Micrococcus and Staphylococcus. We'd expect a clean, washed hand to yield about 50 colonies of bacteria on a dish like this. But Louisa had 300, so quite a few times more. Maybe she didn't wash her hands properly, or the towel she used to dry them wasn't clean.
What other bacteria will join these germs? To find out, Louisa won't wash her hands for a while. The first candidates are lurking in the kitchen, in sponges for instance. How long has this one been in use?
4 or 5 weeks. It's certainly never been washed.
The direct contact test shows that the sponge contains gut and skin flora, but also fecal bacteria. Most of them come from food. In serious cases, they can cause lung infections or even sepsis. Now they're probably sticking to Louisa's fingers. And that's not good because places with lots of people are often ideal for bacterial exchange. Here Louisa picks up a few more bacteria. Experts actually consider the metal bars and the stop button fairly harmless, but
we see large numbers of germs on the seat, skin flora, but also germs that shouldn't be there, like Acinetobacter. In other words, someone sat here with a bacterium that could be a pathogen. Transmitted in large numbers, it could cause an infection.
Many people expect to find large numbers of bacteria here, but in fact the germ load on an escalator is quite low. Shopping carts are a different story though. There are often lots of classic human bacteria on the grip, mostly harmless skin germs, but also pathogens that cause diarrhea.
Luckily, there wasn't any pathogen on it, but you do commonly find them on shopping carts. They represent a hygiene problem because they're rarely or never cleaned.
Louisa's workplace is also a hotbed of bacteria. The sample from the door handle showed 400 colonies. What's worse, the telephone and computer keyboard both have too many gut and fecal bacteria. And the germs can spread on damp hands. And is this even worse? No, not if the toilet is cleaned regularly.
Toilets can inspire fear, but in this case there was nothing dramatic. We found a large number of bacteria, but no pathogens to worry about.
Louisa has come into contact with many different bacteria this morning. How many have adhered to her hands?
In the course of the day, Louisa has been contaminated with some bacteria that aren't necessarily pleasant. Alongside gut flora and Enterococcus, there was a Staphylococcus aureus, which is a pus-forming germ, and an Acinetobacter, a germ that causes lung infections in hospitals in immune-compromised patients, especially when it's antibiotic-resistant.
Finally, Louisa can wash her hands. It's a good idea to wash for 20 seconds after going to the toilet and before eating, and to dry your hands thoroughly to keep the bacteria from multiplying.